Welcome back, guys. You're watching Entrepreneur, and in this video we're going to be going over how to use a stop loss, as well as what is the difference between the stop limit and the stop loss over on Binance exchange, which is the most popular exchange that most people do use for trading, and how to take advantage of the stop loss and use it correctly every time so that you can make sure every single trade that you place is safe and secure, and you don't lose too much money on every single trade. So first off, obviously if you want to trade anything, you need to learn how to trade. So if you guys do want to learn how to trade, make sure to check out the most recent playlist we just did, basically walking you through step by step how to day trade on Binance, simple strategies for beginners to really get started and learn the simple techniques. But now that you understand how to trade, assuming that you do, we want to focus on setting stop losses, because something about becoming a trader is you need to make sure that you can become consistent and consistently make profit and grow your portfolio over time. So a big part of that is risk management, which is where the stop loss comes in, which is what we're going to focus on now. So when you enter a trade, normally you want to have some sort of ratio. So if I actually jump into a bit of a sketch pad right here, you want to have some type of ratio. So normally just a general ratio in like the stock market is a 1-to-3 ratio. So for every 1% or for every 3% profit potential, you would have a 1% stop loss for every 3% profit potential. So for example, if there was a trade and it had 1% profit potential, you would put a 0.3% stop loss. Or if there was a trade that had 3% profit potential, you would have a 1% stop loss. So that means for this trade, you would be at about a 1285 for that stop loss. So that's basically how you want to approach a stop loss and how you want to use risk management to make sure every trade is protected. And then once you understand how you actually use a stop loss, and of course you can check out some of our other content, we go deeper into this, but once you understand how to use it, you then want to, of course, go on the exchange wherever you are trading and take advantage of it. So let's say you enter a trade. I actually entered a trade recently on VeChain. So I bought, somewhere close to this area. And now I want to figure out where my stop loss is. So currently on VeChain, let's see, you obviously have to come back, do some analysis. I'm just going to come in here. Let's just say I bought it 1300. Okay. So average buy maybe is 1300. And now I want to figure out what the profit potential of this trade will be, right? So we drag this up, and maybe I want to go for a longer term trade just for simple statistics, but 50% profit potential. So we now need to take that ratio into account, and I'm actually going to use a bit of a more strict ratio for my use cases, as I like to use this ratio. So I'm going to use a 1-to-5 ratio. So for every 5% potential for profit, there will be a 1% risk for loss. So now that I'm going to take that, obviously a 50% potential for profit is going to be a 10% stop loss. So then I would calculate where that 10% is. So let's go ahead and do that. Coming into the 5-minute real quick. And of course, when you're doing this, guys, you want to make sure you're focusing on where you're going to actually exit the trade, because when you obviously go for the potential for profit, you're not always going to get up to that level. So always take that into account, that maybe I want to shoot for 50%, but it may not be realistic. So you might want to be a little more realistic with whatever that stop loss or target profit point will be. So with a 10% stop loss, this would be 1159. So now that I know that, I can come in here to Binance. So when you're on Binance, there's 3 tabs right here: the limit, market, and stop limit. You're going to come over to the stop limit, and that's where you're going to set your stop loss. So how you're going to do this is there's 3 different things you need to take into account. There's the section that says stop, there's a section that says limit, and there's a section that says amount. So what you need to do is first understand what the stop section is. So the stop is basically going to be when the price of the asset hits the stop, it will begin to trigger whatever price you want to sell, or if you place a limit. So with the stop limit, you're going to say place a number under the stop so that it will trigger once the stop price is met. So if that's a little jumbled for you guys, let me just explain it with strict numbers. Let's say the limit is 1,000 and the stop is 1,010. So when the price of the asset reaches 1,010, it will then trigger the limit order, the limit sell order, to be placed into the order book at this price point, between these two price points actually, and sold off. So that's basically how it works. It's very simple. The stop is the price that basically triggers. So think of it as like an automatic light switch or something like that. So think of it just as like a timer that basically once it hits 1010, it sets off a trigger, and then once it gets down to 1,000, the order is placed and you sell out most likely at that price or higher, or sometimes a little bit lower. So that's in simple terms how it works. And then of course you just choose the amount you want to sell at that price, and that's basically it. So that's how you would go through and set your stop loss. But before we end the video, guys, I do want to show you guys a tool that I have just started using. It is called 3 commas, and it actually allows you to set stop losses before you have to even buy the asset. So a lot of times you'll have to wait until you buy the asset and then go in and set your stop loss. Well, this tool actually allows you to place your buy order, your stop loss, and a take profit level all at the same time, and the trade is automated. So it will all be placed in the order book by itself without you having to touch anything. So the tool is called 3 commas. I'm going to leave a link, top link in the description for you guys to check it out. There's a 10% discount if you guys go through that link. So of course you're getting a little kickback there, but basically this is a very nice software I just started using that allows you to use their smart trade terminal in order to automate your trading a little bit more. So for this example, we would come to smart sell actually, but we're going to do smart trade. And it allows you to not only set a buy order, but also the level you want to take profit and your stop loss. So I'm going to choose all of these, and basically you just open each one, and you can click them on or off, and then choose between smart trade, which is buying, and then smart sell, which is selling. You choose, we'll start off with the buying and selling, but that's basically the 3 different panels and how they work. So now once you know that, you can come into the smart trade and smart sell area, and basically the first box, we're going to choose the amount of units. So let's say we want to buy 1,000 units of Cardano, and let's say we want to do 3,600. Just because I like simple terms for now. And size from available amount, obviously you have to have Ethereum if you're trading against Ethereum. So of course you would choose 100%, 5%, whatever amount you want to trade for that specific trade. So now that you've done that, you come over here and say, okay, well, what do I want to profit from this trade? Let's say we want to do 10%, so 10% profit. And it will convert it once it hits that price. And then you can also use this area down here. So what this is actually a trailing feature, which basically once it reaches 10% profit, if it continues to climb, then there will be a stop loss basically that will trail 5% behind the highest price that it gets to. And then if it starts to fall, it will sell out before it falls too much. So nice little feature there, and it allows you to maximize the amount of profit you can get on each trade. And then lastly, for the stop loss, let's say for this example, we want to do a 1-to-5 ratio. So we would do -2% stop loss, and you can do a stop loss timeout if you wanted to. And then of course a trailing stop loss, which is what I like to do, so that you can lock in the profit if the trade doesn't go as planned. So very nice feature. And after you've done that, all you have to do is hit create trade. It's not going to let me right now just because I don't have any Ethereum to trade with the Cardano, but once you do create trade, it creates the trade, and basically the trade starts once it reaches the price and your order is placed and you purchase the asset. Then it allows, it automates the whole process, and it will set the take profit once it gets close to that level, and also set the stop loss if it gets close to that level. So very simple to use, really straightforward, good for beginners if you don't want to, mess around with Binance. I know sometimes Binance can get a little tricky, so good for beginners. Again,